Anyway, Judaism has three levels, and there's the simple outer abridged level, then there is the Pharisite level, and then there's the Secret Elders of Zion level. And that's not Z-I-O-N, except to the outer layers, it's Z-A-Y-N. Remember, this is all phonetic, and the Secret Elders of Zion refer to Ayin, and the Z is for the Jewish side of the Ayin worshippers. And when I say worshippers, it's more of a quid pro quo relationship. They do the torture and killing, and then the Ayins, the devils, basically suck up those energies. And then, of course, there's a quote-unquote Christian side, which is Sion. We know it as S-I-O-N, but of course, phonetically, it's S-A-Y, S-A-Y-I-N. And search Ayin 26 Kabbalah if you're unfamiliar with what that is. And by going through some of the Star Trek renditions of this, I learned the full way and the proper way to count the menorah. And you see it alluded to here as well. He has it 1 plus 2, 3, with a male principle in the middle, basically coming from outer in. And essentially, you'll see that basically the 3s are the feminine aspect of the menorah, so it basically starts with a 2 plus 1, 3, that you'll see later on in the classic Star Trek scenes that depict the same thing. Anyway, here you'll notice that we have the 2 plus 1, 3, twice actually, both facing us lit, and then with their backs to us in the dark. And then above that, we have a very interesting scene, Sons of Mars, which I have alluded to in the past. Knowledge of them continues to grow, but you'll see these Roman centurions, they're basically the guards of the, well, these are essentially Masons. You'll notice they have that orange color, which again, as I mentioned in another video, refers to the yellow plus the red Romans. Let's see, is that right? Yeah, that's right, yellow plus the red. So starting from the bottom, you have 6 plus 7, 13. That gives us our pi. And then again, the extra 3 in red, Sons of Mars, Roman Centurions, which gives us another 16 at the top. Some of you will know that Mozart was killed for making this play. He was poisoned shortly thereafter. And the reason you will see, well, he released a lot of information, as I've mentioned, but the key information was Papagena was basically, as some of you will know, was a total loser, male coward, couldn't follow instructions, and he couldn't get a woman until these 3 naked boys show up. I believe they were in a balloon. And basically, magic also is happening around this scene. And then suddenly his girl, Papagena, shows up, and she's all ears and ripping her clothes off and just madly in love with him. And essentially what it alludes to is their quote-unquote magic ability to get people spousal units. And of course, it doesn't take much imagination. And I've seen other corroborative evidence to this fact that they can not only take apart marriage, not only put together marriages, as Mozart tells us, but they can also take marriages and relationships apart. And again, this is demonic. The so-called magic is not being done at all by these so-called magicians. They're basically employing the demons to do their dirty work. From there, we're moving on to the sidereal 16. The sidereal 16 involves a celestial sphere having been divided up into a 24-hour clock with stars transiting along a meridian, sharing a common time position assignment. You can see that 1600 hours is the so-called sidereal 16. The Kennedys, basically, there were more Kennedy assassinations and attempts than many of us are aware of, yours truly included. You can see that they included Joseph P. Kennedy, and then 2 on John F. Kennedy, Edward, then Robert F. Kennedy, and then John F. Kennedy Jr., and they were all at a very narrow range around the sidereal 16. And here you can see on that image, basically. And of course, God are these lamb, basically. Look up Crawley and Lamb if you want to see who the god of the interlodge Judaism is. And don't let anybody tell you, oh, that was debunked years ago. That's a famous misdirection. It's total crap, as you'll learn straight from the mouth of a Cohen. Those of you unaware, Cohen is the priest class and would have had very good information from rabbis in Israel. Anyway, continuing with the 16, you'll notice that those of you that were carpenter will recall that your first hammer was most likely a 16-ounce claw hammer to use against those 16 penny nails. And of course, then we had our 2x4 wall material, which of course is 8, and then 2x6s for the bottom chords of the rafters. And nowadays, they're using 2x6s for wall framing as well. But of course, here we have our 8. If you look at the Chaldean numerology tables, you'll see where we got our Wizards of Oz. Basically, it's number 7, and then you'll notice on the menorah that's coming up here, 7s are basically on the outer side of the menorah. Okay, moving into the first Star Trek exhibit, you'll notice this is, I think it was Mud. The guy's name was Mud. And you notice here we have his 2 babes, and again, the very ever-popular color orange. And then on your, let's not talk about your versus there. Let's talk about their left. you'll have the girl with the crackers, and then on the right you'll have the blood. And you'll notice it's in a container that is heart-shaped, and unfortunately they have taken the heart, which we all think of as love, and it's basically something else entirely to them, and I guess I'll leave it at that. The image speaks for itself. This image helped me see how to properly and completely count the menorah, basically. It's a 2 plus 1, surprise, surprise. I wasn't at all surprised by this, but there it is again. The 2 plus 1 sex magic, followed by the 1, let's see, that's a 3, plus 1, 4, and then of course the extra 1. This is a completely separate scene that they set up, and it's obviously a purple, or excuse me, it's obviously a 3, 4, 5 laid on the background of the purple dye that we're all familiar with from the Phoenicians that they supposedly used to sell to the king. Filling out this, let's see, oh yeah, then we have the 8 plus 9 on the lights, which of course is the 1 plus 7. Again, you know, anything added to the phallus, or adding phallus to just about anything gets you something. You'll see that very clearly in the following images and spreadsheet calculations of the menorah itself. Then of course in the final scene on this one eye mud, I think it is, you can see at the top exactly what the episode is if you want to see it for yourself, but he brings in his last 2 babes to fill out the scene with the full 6 plus 1, 7. And then of course if you look at the bottom you'll see that it just happens to fill out at the perfect 33. Here is another scene with the man, you know, the 6 plus, or the 1 plus 6 menorah. You'll notice the purple, of course, is the red and blue, referring to the red and blue lodge masons, military and police, basically. And then on their left, note the orange is on the left, and these are the liaisons, as I've mentioned before, between the red and the Jewish and their red sons of Mars. And you'll notice on the right side, their right, you'll notice we have the ephod blue, and again the purple, and the Jew, yellow. Moving on to another, let's see, which one was this? Voyager, I believe it's called. You'll notice that we have the perfect image of a pair of lungs, with of course the phallus symbol in the middle, and then of course you have your 6 plus 1, 7. You don't have, you do have feminine on both sides of the table, but it's not totally feminine. Brings us to Mr. Cohen, who seems like he was a very good Jew that moved from New York to Israel, and then basically got a very much of an education on exactly what Judaism, interlodge Judaism, was about. He basically bumped up against the second lodge and was involved with the rabbis in the middle level who educated him as the existence of the secret inner level. It's the spreadsheet menorah pi laid out, and the pink section basically is the so-called sword. There are 2 basic levels here. One of them is the upper, just like in the numerology, you have the physical layer, and then you have the spiritual or hidden level. And of course that is this pi value down below, and then the brown area refers to the physical layer. You'll notice that the pink square is blank, and so what that gives us essentially are some basic numbers that we would expect, such as the 22 down below. The 72 demons are leaders of the Goetia. If you want to see more information on that, are basically each one of those dudes and dudettes, although of course they're spirits, they don't really have, or demons I should say, so they don't really have a sex, but they have some pretty crazy images that they present. They all control, you know, legions of demons, and are basically the leaders of the 4th dimension. And hell, essentially, let's put it that way. 4, as we know, is the number, as you can see in the light green top right. So we count those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 from right to left. You'll see that we get very similar numbers down below. And of course we have the main key numbers, which are also on both sides of the center phallic candle, or male principle, whatever you want to call it, sword, if you will. You have the 11s, and then also in the wings, you have basically, despite the numbers being totally different, you also get the 11 adding up there, and then of course giving us 22 in the middle. Now, for this particular version of it, you'll notice we have added the 1 to the pink sacrificial square, and that gives us, of course, 4, first of all, 1 plus 3 on each of the wings. One wing is blue on the right, and the other wing is in red on the left. And you'll notice that that gives us the 4, which is important. And it also gives us Mars 17. And then it gives us, the Mars 17 shows up in multiple locations, which is very interesting to me, that one little sword. And this also is this is counted in each one of these pi buckets. We have three pi buckets on the wings, and then one in the middle. The one in the middle is 26. And here we basically have added the sword, or the 1, to each one of these buckets, and you can see that it comes up to Mars 17. Here we see the days of the week, where we also see the Mercury, and essentially it is of course day 4, and this is why we also had those super sex Wednesdays as per the Hampstead children. And here is the proof on the 17 as to why 17 equals Mars, and if you want to see the full video on that, see Earth and Mars decoded V1210. Okay, here is the second rendition where the sword is simply added to the wings, and the first version here does not have the sword, and so what we have is essentially coming up again with the temple, and then the 32, which is a significant number as well. It seems to refer to, no, I'm not sure. My evidence on that is very light. I have some theories, but I've not been able to prove it. It seems to. My initial feeling is that it refers to the demons themselves. There are 5 demonic types according to the Quran, and I've seen several instances that implied that's one meaning for that. But in any case, you'll see that again we have our 72 down below, which of course refers all. Moving on to the second version of the same spreadsheet with the sword added in, and also to one to each of the wings, you'll notice that it comes up to, of course, with a 33 up above in each one of the wings, giving us our classic perfect 33, and of course the order 66 down below. This will, of course, the more the swords, the more you're going to get from your demons, and seems to be enough to release them. The 1 refers to the sword, and the 6 also refers to death. There, if you draw it, you'll notice it's a spiral. The counterclockwise spiral refers to death, and the clockwise spiral refers to life. You'll notice the Brahmanics circumambulate clockwise, and the Abrahamics and the only clan of which I know is Islam that circumambulates around the Kaaba, I think it is, and of course they go counterclockwise. And then again, you'll also notice that we come up with the 1 plus 9, 10. That gives us our sword down below. So again, we have that classic as above, so below. So if you want the sword from the demonic realm, you have to give them the sword from the physical realm. And essentially that refers to sexualizing the victim and then killing them. 1 plus 6. And not just killing them, but torturing them so that they can basically soak up those energies like as a sort of food. And for examples on how this is executed, Google evil medieval rabbits and then flip to images. Rabbits is a symbol for Jews.